In today's video, we're diving into multiple upcoming major cooldowns for the eastern states, where a majority of the next few weeks are going to be featuring severe cold and some snowfall opportunities. Now, before we get into things, be sure to check out Prestige Weather in the description, pinned comment, and the top right corner of your screen. We do weather consulting for businesses and individuals alike. We do a lot of consulting calls, consulting emails, consulting texts, and we have an exclusive community for you guys for weather consulting. It's all for only $5 a month, and we're actually running a promotion right now for Black Friday. If you put in the code DIRECT at checkout, you will get your first month for only $1. Be sure to check it out today. Now, on top of all of that, we do have our winter forecast, our final one, and also our official December forecast for early access available to all Prestige Weather members. So for only 99 cents in your first month, you can access all of that. Be sure to check it out today. Let's dive into things, and as you can see, just starting out, we already have a big cooldown that is here in the eastern states. So number one cooldown is happening immediately, starting today on Tuesday the 28th, peaking for a lot of folks overnight tonight into tomorrow. Even the following night, Wednesday into Thursday, is going to be rather cold. So we have severe cold already here. We expect more of this on the way, and maybe even worsened conditions over the coming weeks, like I mentioned. All of this is due in part to this positive PNA that we have out west, and that stands for Pacific North American Oscillation. Basically, warm temperatures in the west is all you need to know. And this creates a warm bubble that is pushing this cold air that is typically in western Canada to the north, and this funnels back eastward where we don't have a positive PNA or a warm air mass, and it basically goes the only place it can. It has to go somewhere, and when there is a positive PNA, that somewhere oftentimes is the eastern states. So that is really the reasoning why we have a lot of this happening. Let's move this towards Wednesday. We will, of course, dive into the storminess as we go along, but there isn't much to speak of yet. We're also going to be cross-examining the American GFS model after we take a look at this European model. So we are going to see both today, just like we did yesterday. We see this cooldown is beginning to come to an end. Number one, there's more on the way, like I mentioned. For Thursday, we already see the second one billowing up here, and the Arctic air mass is set up here. We are going to see this eventually move eastward. There is a couple of things to speak of on this particular date for Thursday the 30th. First off, we have a storm brewing here for the south central states, and we have storm number 2 up here in the northwest as well, both respectively causing snowfall to certain areas, one of which here is going to be for northern California into Oregon and Washington. And then this one in the south central states, as you can see, is impacting the far southern Rockies in New Mexico and Arizona with some moderate to heavy snowfall for those mountain ranges. So both are causing some wintry precipitation. By Friday afternoon, this is going to be December 1st, we can see that there is snowfall happening here for a lot of Illinois, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and even New York, but it's only happening on the very, very far northern extent of this storm. This is by no means a very strong low pressure system in here. We don't even see an L on screen anywhere. And really the stronger storm on screen at this point is going to be this one for the west, where we do see snowfall for Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. I said those ones backwards, but both of them are expecting snowfall. As we keep going, we see that there is some snow concern with this storm in the east, but not major. There's no major cold at this point, so the timing just doesn't line up there with this first storm. This happens to be one of the couple of day warm-ups that we have while this storm is moving through, so it doesn't really line up to create any snowfall for the most part outside of the Adirondacks in New York, the Green Mountains in Vermont, and the White Mountains in New Hampshire, as well as northern Maine, areas that typically see very wintry conditions even when other areas aren't here in the east. We do see that we begin to see a cooldown moving eastward here by this point on Sunday, December 3rd. We do actually have a 1004 millibar low pressure center here offshore of the mid-Atlantic as this cold air is moving in, and this is our first opportunity for potential snowfall to line up with this very major cold air. We do see that there is a major storm system in the west, and this is causing some snowfall throughout the Canadian and the American Rockies there. But at the same time, we do see this billowing warmth building back up. Again, that positive PNA making a reappearance here, and this is going to force this cold air into the east. Let's watch this happen as we move towards the 4th. Look at that. We get a major cool down here throughout a lot of the east here. This one is not quite as major as the one before it, but it is pretty explosive with how quickly it moves in. And we actually get a reinforcement from this one. I think the interesting thing here to note is that we do actually have a low pressure system nearby, 993 offshore of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, which is rather strong, but it's just too far offshore. If we saw this one here closer to the coast, we could be talking about some potential snowfall as a result of that nor'easter that is just offshore. But again, this might be one of those timing things where we don't really see it line up. It's really the 5th, 6th, and 7th that I'm watching closely. This positive PNA is pushing well into Alberta there. In Canada, we see it pushing very far northward. And look at this really, really severe downturn in the cold air. We are going to see a really strong Arctic air mass set up here once again, especially as we move towards the 6th. Look at that. It's really diving southward in the east, and we can see a very extreme ridge and trough pattern setting up here where we have a deep trough in the east. Simultaneously, we see a low develop here near Virginia, and we're seeing snowfall for West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania here to begin things out. Very, very timely fashion here as opposed to those previous storms. And this is exactly what I've been talking about for a couple of days when I said there is ingredients there for big snowfall events. The models just weren't picking up on any of them lining up yet. Now we're beginning to see things line up potentially. Look at this, a 999. It's still pretty far offshore. If we saw this one a little bit closer, we would see a much different story with major snowfall perhaps in here. It is cold enough, so definitely the ingredients are there. But look, as we just go a couple of hours later, we do start to see that one build. It does move closer to the coast. We just don't quite get it to cause snowfall, but that 5th, 6th, 7th time frame is very cold. We're going to watch this one closely. If we see any western trend with this, we would be talking about a severe snowstorm here in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. We are really, really close to seeing that come through and show up on this model run. Keep that in mind. As we keep going, we keep this very severe cold air over the Northeast through the end of the model run, which will be Friday, December 8th. We have a really strong warm-up now for the central states and another cool down moving in through the Northwest, causing some snowfall as they see very major storms battering their area out there. But this could spell an end to this cold pattern around the 8th if we do see something like this happen. Let's see what the GFS has to say. I want to just take us through this first cooldown, which is already done by the time this model run is happening, so we're going to really glance past that. We get storm number 1. Looks a little bit more snowy here for the Northeast on this model, but still nothing too major as there's just not enough cold air there to work with. It's pretty exclusive for certain areas. But then as we move towards the 5th, 6th, 7th, look at this. We get this low pressure center. Look at how close it is to the coast here on this model, though, the American model. We get the same exact, very intense positive PNA pushing well into Canada. And as a result, that cold air diving southward. So we get the same exact thing here on the GFS model. Just this low is much closer to the coast, and we begin to see very heavy snowfall as a result of that. It's still a pretty quick moving system, and it does move offshore, and we get this cold air well into the Carolinas, so this is extending very far southward. We do get a brief warm up here, but look at this, another cool down with a low pressure system nearby moving in for the Northeast by the time we're reaching the 9th, 10th time frame, 999. Millibar low pressure center there offshore of Massachusetts. There is some snowfall in the area. Let's keep going and look at that. Another major cooldown on the way for around the 11th, 12th time frame. So this model says we're going to keep seeing these cooldowns battering the eastern states through the midpoint of the month at least. And look at this. We have another nor'easter lining up perfectly with this. It just moves offshore too quickly. But again, anytime you have major cold air in the east and a low pressure system just offshore, you're going to want to be on high alert because this can easily be a lot closer to the coast. We see multiple examples of this throughout both of these model runs that we just took a look at, and then everything kind of comes to an end. So that might be potentially 3, 4, 5 major cooldowns over the next 10 to 15 days. Certainly, winter is on its way here very early for the eastern states. Now, the total precipitation here, as you can see, very far above average amounts here for the Northwest as we have, again, major storms moving through, and this will result in a lot of snowfall. And then we get this very, very active nor'easter pattern that sets up here for the eastern states, causing above average precipitation throughout all of these areas here. Certainly going to be something to watch for. The total snowfall, again, we don't have anything lining up too much. We still expect a dusting to even as far as 10 inches for some mountainous areas here in the east. but surely no widespread snowfall yet. Out west, major snowstorms for all of these mountainous areas, which is, of course, to be expected. GFS model differs a little bit here. Same thing out west. We're not going to focus on that, but we do get a bit more here throughout the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. But again, no widespread snowfall events yet, but all the ingredients are in place for that to potentially happen with some small changes. And we can expect anywhere from small to major changes with these models when we're talking about 5 to 10 to even 15 days out. So it is definitely within the realm of possibility or even probability that we see some changes here coming very soon. And when things are this close to coming together for a major snowfall event or even major winter storm, we're going to be watching this very, very closely here on the channel. Now, as we take a look here, I want to take us into the temperature anomalies here. Now, I want to take us through the upcoming temperature pattern. We're going to take a look at this GFS model. Here's that first major cool down with even 15 to 25 degrees below normal here in the heart of it. Very, very extreme. We get this brief warm up again, but look at that, another cool down on the way. Again, less major this time, but certainly some areas experiencing 10 to 15 degrees below normal will definitely be sufficient for potentially snowfall, if not just a very, very cold event. Here's around the 9th, 10th, 11th time frame, another more moderate cool down, and then we get a more major one here to close out the model run for the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th time frame. Look at this one, very, very intense once again, especially from the deeper south all the way through the southeast and then up into the northeast and even eastern Canada. All of these areas experiencing 10 to 15 degrees below normal, and in eastern Canada, even as far as 15 to 25 degrees below normal. So multiple big cooldowns on the way over the next 15 or so days. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe as we do upload videos just like this one every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.